Okay, so finally we get into the nuts and bolts and the practical stuff. We're going to start talking about exercise now. And of course, you know, the Empire would obviously have a much better gym than the Rebels because, you know, they're the Empire and they've got loads of money apparently. So interestingly, when it comes to corrective exercise, literally any exercise is better than none. This is a very recent paper, or at the time of recording this, a very recent paper by Owen P. J. et al. In 2019. They looked at a variety of interventions for reducing back pain, lots of different types of exercise and different types of manual therapy, and they discovered that literally any kind of movement is better than none. Pilates and stabilization exercises came up very high. Most people responded well to that. Most people responded well to resistance training and cardio also. So just going for a run is going to help, or a brisk walk even, is going to help reduce your pain, because movement is good for your body. Your body likes movement. Personally speaking, my own personal experience and all of my clients, pain is always better and less frequent when you make your body stronger. So do resistance training. But interestingly here, exercise was far more effective than manual therapy, which was next to useless. But, you know, anecdotally, I would say that in the early stages at least, a combination of manual therapy and rehab exercise works very well in synergy with each other if you've got a good quality physiotherapist that you can to go and see or refer to. I have a very good evidence-based physiotherapist that I refer some of my clients to. She's very, very good. She runs a lot of assessments and she will prescribe them exercise. She doesn't just rub them and bend them and you know, crack the spine or whatever. She gets them moving and exercising, and may even use like hydrotherapy. And there'll be certain techniques that you need just to kind of break down some scar tissue or muscular stiffness and just create different sensory feedback to help joints and muscles move more efficiently. And then they can you go from that to then doing the corrective exercise, and you get more out of the corrective exercise in those early stages. So manual therapy and exercise work well together in the early stages, but if you do one thing, exercise, just move, because it's going to be much better than not moving at all. So bed rest is out. Don't rest, don't sit, don't stop moving when your back is hurting. Remember what I said earlier, do as much as you possibly can without doing more harm. And in the early stages, that might be walking for 5 minutes, you know, and then you build it up from there. But do some kind of movement. So a really good combination of exercises that you can do in the early stages. This is the McGill Big Three from Stu McGill. So you've got 3 exercises here: the modified curl up, the side plank, and the Superman or bird dog, which we mentioned earlier. The idea of the modified curl up is to promote stiffness in the abdomen. So you just lay flat on the back with one knee bent, your fingertips under your spine to maintain that neutral subtle curve in the back, but you should feel your spine against your fingertips. If you're carrying a lot of extra body fat around your midsection, you won't feel that, so that's another good reason for you to follow the nutrition advice in this program and lose some timber. But ideally you should be able to get the tips of your fingers under your spine and it not move, and then you just lift your head. Keep the neck in a neutral position, lift your head just a couple of centimeters, brace your abs, tense every muscle in your body, and then exhale through your teeth like that. You exhale for 10 seconds, you tense everything hard, you should be shaking as you do it, then you relax yourself down, rest for a few breaths, and then do it again. Same with the side plank, laying on your side, pull your shoulder blade down and tense your lat to create stability in the shoulder, brace your abs, lift your hips, hold it for 10 seconds, squeeze everything tight, and again, breathing out through your teeth. And then with the Superman or bird dog, again, you want to keep that neutral spine. Don't let things rotate around. Your torso wants to be flat and neutral. Subtle curvature in the lower back, shoulder blades pulled back, squeezing your armpits like you're holding oranges there. Brace your abs, squeeze your bum, push the foot straight back. So if you look at the picture here, the lady, she's pushing her foot back. It's almost as if she's pushing her foot into the wall behind her. And the foot doesn't want to be higher than the hip. Same with the hand. The hand wants to be straight out in front of you, not too high, not too low. And you squeeze everything tight. In fact, in the picture there, she's opening her hand. You want to make her clench your fist tight. Make everything tight. You hold it, you exhale, 10 seconds. Then without touching the floor, you bring your hand and knee in. You inhale, and then you go back and you do it again. And when you're moving in that transition, do not flex your spine. Keep the spine flat. So you've got to control the motion. So it's anti-rotation and anti-flexion. Do it for 3 reps, 10-second holds, 3 repetitions of each exercise. For the bilateral exercises, the unilateral exercises, do it on each side. So do it for 3 repetitions of each, a 10-second hold for each. Rest for 30 seconds or up to a minute, and then do it again, but just do 2 repetitions. It's called a descending pyramid. So you do 3 repetitions, rest, 2 repetitions, rest, 1 repetition, rest. That's a descending pyramid. Do that, and then just see how you feel the next day. Now, if you've had bad pain for a little while, you've recently injured yourself, you may get a little bit of a reaction to it. You shouldn't, because they're quite easy exercises, but you may get a little bit of a reaction to it. You might not be quite ready for that. Same if you've never exercised before. But I'm willing to bet that if you do this, you'll actually feel better, and or you'll at least feel the same, but you shouldn't feel worse. If you do feel worse, you're not ready for that yet, do something else. But you should be fine, and then if you are, do it every other day to begin with, then do it every day. And then when you're doing 3-2-1 every day, build it up, do 4-2-1, 5-3-1, and so on. To be honest, once you get to the point where you're doing 5-3-1 every day, it's probably time to move on to something else. Just remember, when you do this, everything's tight, you're pushing the breath out through your diaphragm, through your teeth like a pressure release kettle. You should be shaking, almost sweating when you're doing it. Make it as hard as possible. So if you've done the McGill Big 3 for a couple of weeks, maybe a little bit longer, and you're feeling better, and the exercise is feeling fairly easy now, then it's time to move on and do some more stuff. So I've got 2 levels here of core strength and stability exercises. So all of these exercises are examples of these on my YouTube channel, so you can go and look at those. But if you don't know any of these exercises, then if you're that inexperienced with exercise, then go and see a corrective exercise specialist, a pain rehabilitation specialist, or at the very least get yourself along to a Pilates class. But level 1 on the left hand side, these are the easiest exercises to do. These are all mat based exercises. So you've got bridge or single leg bridge, which is a slight progression. So that's a hip bridge like I showed you earlier. Leg reaches, showed you that one earlier. Dead bug, which is a more advanced version of it. So you're doing leg reaches, but you're reaching the opposite arm as well. So it's a bit like the bird dog in reverse. Stability ball bridge. So that's another hip exercise, but with your back on the stability ball plank. So it's a dynamic plank with your knees on the floor, using the stability ball, so you're rolling the ball forwards and back, keeping a neutral spine. Stability ball dart, which is a back extension exercise. As I say, the videos are on my YouTube channel. You can go and look for those. You should know these exercises if you've ever done any kind of exercise in your life. And those level 1 exercises are easy. Like, pretty much anyone can do those. I've done those exercises with 80-year-old women who've had like hip and knee replacements. So if they can do it, you can do it. No excuses. Just make sure you're doing it correctly. Start off, if you've never done them before, start off with reduced ranges of motion, get the alignment right, and then build it up from there. Level 2, a bit more dynamic and a bit more upper body stuff here. So you've got band pull aparts for the upper back and shoulders, Palov press, which is a cable or band assisted, resisted, not assisted, resisted standing core exercise. Is an anti-rotation exercise for the midsection. TRX TYI, which is again for the upper back and shoulders. Stir the pot, which is another anti-rotation exercise using a stability ball. And loaded carries. I've written a blog all about loaded carries, so if you're not sure what those are, you can go and read the blog on my site, and it tells you everything you need to know about loaded carries. Mobility is really important. I recommend that you do some kind of mobility exercise every single day. Find a routine of 2 or 3 exercises that you can do for a couple of minutes first thing in the morning when you get out of bed, and maybe last thing at night before you get in bed, that you can do for a couple of minutes before you start exercising, before and after you do the McGill Big 3 or any of those other core exercises. Remember, going back to the joint by joint concept, the joints, the main areas that you want to be mobilizing are the hips and the mid-spine. So that's why I've picked these particular exercises. Again, the videos are on my YouTube channel, so you can see those. Reverse salamander, it's kind of a technical exercise, but it promotes spinal rotation. The crawl patterns, which I'm demonstrating in the picture there, that's a more advanced version of the functional crawl. So there, the crawl pattern is primarily hip mobility, but with this version, with the rotation there, I'm also rotating and extending the mid-spine, so it's spine and hip mobility in one move. Reverse overhead lunge, which again is upper spine, mid-spine mobility, so you get some thoracic extension and it stretches out the hip flexors and the abdomen. And strike, standing strike, which is a hamstring and glute stretch. It's a single leg hip hinge pattern, so you get a stretch from the bum down to the back of your knee. And again, as I say, you can see the videos on my YouTube channel if none of those words make any sense to you. Strength and conditioning is important. So getting yourself stronger and building a little bit of muscle is going to be 100% better for you, not just for your pain, but for lots of things. But it reduces your experience of pain, it reduces your fear of movement, which is known as kinesiophobia. It reduces pain catastrophizing. Being stronger is better for you. There's going to be less weakness in the body, so there's going to be less pain in the body. So think about strengthening the whole body, but think about movements rather than muscles. So you look at movements like deadlifts, which I'm demonstrating in the picture there. Again, you can see hip hinged, so pushing the bum back like you're closing the door with your bum, but keeping the feet flat as you do it and the knees slightly bent. There's a neutral spine there, so again, drawing a line from the hips to the shoulders to the ear, dead straight line, holding an invisible tennis ball under the chin. So the deadlift is a hip hinge pattern, then it's a posterior chain, so it's glutes and hamstrings, and it's the back extensors as well. In squats, everybody knows how to squat. You squat multiple times a day when you're getting in and out of a chair. When you squat in the gym, make sure you set yourself up correctly, use the correct foot spacing and weight distribution. Brace your abs. Squat as deep as you can, but don't push further. Work within a pain-free range of motion. It may be that while you've got a lot of pain, that your movements are limited and they get better as you get stronger. If you don't know how to do these exercises and these movements correctly, then get yourself a coach or a trainer to show you. Pulls and rows, so it's mostly upper body movements, so pulling like a seated row or a chin up. Pressing movements, so that'd be like bench press, push-ups, overhead press, that kind of thing. So you're strengthening the upper body and the shoulders with these movements. Kettlebell swings, great one, hip hinge exercise, but great for developing hip power and muscular endurance of the spine extensors. Turkish get-ups, a great kettlebell very technical kettlebell strength exercise. It takes a lot of practice to get right, and again, if you're not sure how to get it right, book some coaching sessions with a kettlebell coach who can teach you how to do it correctly. And carries, again, loaded carries, farmer walks, suitcase carries, waiter carries, any kind of carrying a weight and walking with it, like you see in the World's Strongest Man competition. Just when you do it with correct alignment, so own that posture. Don't be all slumped over and walking like a zombie. So there is a training plan as part of this program, and you'll get that, so you can see how to incorporate those exercises into a training plan. You don't have to use all of those exercises and movements, but it's best to do that. I mean, it depends how strong you want to get, but as I say, adding some progressive resistance training to your fitness routine is going to be the best thing you can do once you're at that point in your rehab that you're able to do it. I've added some infographics here. So corrective exercise, foam rollers, it's an option. They don't do anything to change the muscles on a cellular level, but there's a sensory aspect to it. So anyone will tell you that's done foam rolling, when you have soreness in joints and muscles and you foam roll it, for some reason it seems to make it feel better, it seems to make it move more freely. In the research, there's no cellular change in the muscle, but again, going back to the biopsychosocial pain model, it's a sensory feedback from the foam roller, so that might be part of the psycho element of the psychosocial model rather than the cellular biological element. Usually it's only short-term relief, but it's something like maybe if you've got some tightness, stiffness, soreness in a muscle or a joint, you do some foam rolling, it feels a little bit better afterwards, and then you're able to exercise more efficiently. Stretching, you need to know what you're stretching and why. Static stretching doesn't really do anything whatsoever for pain, not really. Again, doesn't change the length of the muscle, doesn't change the muscle on a cellular level, but stretching feels quite nice, and if you're doing things that feel nice, that has interesting effects on brain chemistry. And again, part of the psycho part, the biopsychosocial pain model, static stretching, yoga, things like that make you feel good, they make you feel a bit more relaxed, you may feel less pain. Just know what you're stretching and why, and know how to do it safely and effectively. If you're getting a lot of pain in the lower back and you keep stretching your lower back, that's probably the worst thing you can do. You need to be stabilising the lower back, stretching the hips and the mid-spine. And then I've already mentioned resistance training, but strengthens the body, protects against relapse. You'll get far fewer relapses, there'll be fewer and further in between, and they'll last a lot less longer when they do occur if you're stronger. And on the right hand side there, 3 exercises to reduce back pain. So just a visual model for what I've been talking about here. So number 1, that's just an example of an exercise you can do to stretch out the mid-spine or the thoracic spine, T-spine. So that's the mid and upper back is getting a stretch there. So mid-spine mobility. Hip mobility, so that's a hip 90-90. You might not be ready to get into that position, but mobilizing the hips, working those hips through their full range of motion. So hip mobility. And then the dead bug, which is for core stiffness. So lumbar spine stabilization. Okay, so hip mobility, mid-spine mobility, lumbar spine stability, and there are other options, other things you can do to affect your pain in different ways. Some are more effective than others. As I said, you do get a training plan with this, but here's a couple of examples of different ways to incorporate resistance training into your routine. So once you get to the point where you've got rid of your pain, if you want to either get back to being a good, enjoying your recreational, athletic and sporting pursuits, or maybe you now feel like for the first time you can get into that and become an athlete for the first time, you need to know how to train for athleticism. and sporting performance. So I've given you a couple of basic templates here. I like training with kettlebells, it's my preference. So this is the kind of template that I use when I'm programming my workouts and my clients' workouts. And on the right hand side there is an example of how you can set up a 3-day full body strength training program in the gym using weights. And there's the references, just to prove that I've done my due diligence and that this is evidence-based, that I have looked at the science and I'm not making this shit up. And how better to end this than with Master Yoda. But I actually found that this quote was quite relatable, going back to what I was talking about with the pain catastrophizing and the fixation and the neuromatrix. So when you fixate and ruminate and become stressed and anxious about your pain experience worsens. And so the quote, when you look at the dark side, careful you must be, for the dark side looks back. And that dark side is your pain. So be kinder to yourself in how you think about your pain, how you approach your pain. Be positive, accentuate the positive. You can beat this, you will beat this. Master Yoda said so, Troy said so, I've been Troy, this has been Fragrant. You're going to get a lot more content over the coming weeks, and you're going to get those training plans and some nutrition stuff, and there's a couple of bonus videos as well coming up. This is all going to fall into place for you. Watch these videos over and over again till it makes sense. Take action, more importantly. Don't just watch it, scan through it. Take action, because nothing's going to happen if you don't take action. And then I want to hear about it. So, drop me an email, post about it on social media, tag me in, tell your friends, because I want to help more people improve their quality of life by living life with less pain. Okay, I've been Troy. This has been the Back Pain Solution. Laters.